There is only one question that comes up in every single job interview, and it is the most important question. This question gives the hiring manager an opportunity to see what it's like to actually work with you on the job. So we need to nail this question. Now that question is, do you have any questions for us? Now a lot of terribly misinformed people get to this part of the interview and think, oh, thank God, I'm done. And if you think about it this way, then you're right, you are done. With any chance of working for this company, we need to come in with thoughtful, excellent questions that's going to show them how dedicated we are to this job before we even have it. That is the best way to move on in the process and land the job. So let's talk about exactly how to do that right now. Now, I have spent 11 years as a recruiter and hiring manager interviewing people for jobs, and let me set the record straight. We are not asking, do you have any questions for us, because we're worried that we forgot to tell you something. We are asking you to see how engaged you are in this job, how much research you've done, and if you're able to carry on an intelligent conversation about the role, the team, the company, and all the things we'll be talking to you about if we hire you. Now, because I'm feeling gracious, today I'm going to talk you through exactly what kind of preparation we need to do to be able to ask these great questions, as well as sharing exactly what questions I recommend adding. Now first, because I do not want you embarrassing yourself out there, I'm going to talk about questions we should not ask, which, trust me, come up a lot. These are questions I have been asked dozens of times in job interviews, and it never goes well. Now before we get into that, I know some of you are total gunslingers and you have some incredible questions you love to ask during your job interviews that work really well. If you have a great example of a 10 out of 10 question that you've responded well to as an interviewer, or you found interviewers respond well to when you've asked, please don't hoard them like King K. Rool hoards Donkey Kong's bananas. Share the questions in the comments with all of us. I would love to see them, so would everyone else watching this video. All right, my friends, before we get into exactly what questions you should ask, it behooves me to cover the questions you should not ask. And each one of these has been asked to me dozens of times, and it never goes well. So the first one is, when will I be hearing back? Now, yes, we do desperately want this information. However, it is very important that we wait patiently for them to reach out whenever they're going to reach out. Because if we ask a question like this, it shows a little bit of desperation, it's very self-centered, and it is us wasting a huge opportunity to engage them in a discussion, which is exactly how we're going to convince them that we'll be great at this job. Second is asking about pay or vacation. Again, it's information we need, but the time to ask about this is after you receive a job offer, but before you accept that offer. Number 3, what does this company do? Another phrasing for this question is, I didn't do any research for this interview. Interviewers love people who are prepared. This question shows a total lack of preparation. Avoid it. Number 4, do you do background checks? Do you have something to hide? And number 5, do you like my outfit? Now this one is probably the least damaging of the 5 on this list, but not totally professional. I would save this one for the first day of work perhaps, or just ask someone else. Now in just a second, I'm going to cover a few very common but useless questions that I actually hear other people being advised to ask, and I just want to make sure we're not wasting any time with these kinds of questions. But first, speaking of time, if you could take a second, my friends, to like and subscribe. I'm trying to build this YouTube channel up to be a really big, popular thing where we can help tons of other people with this great content. So if you appreciate the content, you want to make sure you see all my next videos, and you want to help me reach more people, it would go a long way if you hit that little thumbs up and the bell and all that other great stuff. So let's get into some questions that people advise you to ask that I advise you not to ask. So number 1 is, what do you like about working here? They will answer the people. Or maybe they'll say, no 2 days are the same. We're going to get a really generic answer that just, could apply to any job. We want to avoid this question. In a moment, I'll share a much more insightful and effective way to ask something like this. The second one is, can you describe the workplace culture? Now this one is just really hard for people to answer, so you're most likely to get something either completely nonsensical or generic boilerplate type answer. Again, we'll share some better examples of how to ask this kind of thing a little later. And third, what does a typical workday look like in this role? I just advise staying away from this one because you're very unlikely to get an accurate answer. Jobs are constantly changing and evolving, and what they say to you now might not be accurate when you actually get into the role. Then again, this one is not too bad. You can go ahead and ask it if you really want. Alright, my friends, enough about what not to say. Let's talk about the questions we should be asking at the end of an interview when they ask, do you have any questions for us? So number one is, could you tell me about your proudest moment working here? Now this question will both give you a very specific idea of what's important to them and what it's like to work there, and it's going to put them in a great mood as they go down memory lane, and that is never a bad thing to happen when these people are judging us. Number two, have you ever considered blank? Now to ask this question, we're going to have to do some research and come up with some ideas on how we think that this team might be able to better improve their performance or achieve their goal. So an example could be, have you ever considered adding a financial incentive program to increase the performance of the customer service team? The third question is, I also have skills doing blank. Would there be an opportunity to integrate that into this work? With this question, we are saying, hey, I know we've already talked about a bunch of great skills that I have. I also want you to know I'm skilled in this thing, and I would be very eager to use that skill to help our team improve. Well, this could be anything. It could be forensic accounting, graphic design, just some fringe skills that you have that they might not yet know about. The fourth question I recommend asking is, what does the professional development structure look like? Now this is just a great question to help you decide if you actually want to work at this place. Companies who have a set professional development structure are usually very good at taking care of their employees' well-being and also guiding your career development to help you advance long-term. So if they have a solid answer to this question, I would probably recommend taking this offer if everything else lines up. 5. What would a successful first 90 days in this role look like? Now this is a great way for you to understand what will be expected of you. This shows them that you are interested in hitting the ground running, and you're able to think big picture as well as day to day. Finally, if there's any other questions you are dying to ask about this job, regarding things you might be responsible for or the working conditions, this is a good time to ask, because that kind of information is going to be critical in helping you decide if you want to work there if they do offer you the job. Now, one last very important piece of information for you. Write these questions down, please. You can write these questions down, you can take them into the interview. When they ask you this question, inevitably, whether it's at the beginning of the interview or the end, we are going to pull out this list of questions we have and just ask them, because we do not want to forget any of the questions that we prepared in advance, and we don't also want to spend the time that they're answering these questions trying to remember the other questions we were going to ask. We want to be able to listen, respond, and start a conversation appropriately. Also, when someone asks you if you have questions and you pull out a list, you look prepared, and companies love to hire people who are prepared. Now, for more interview tips, I would highly recommend checking out these other great videos I've put together on interviews. Make sure to like, subscribe, check out my channel. We've got resume tips, cover letters, LinkedIn, everything you need to land a great new job. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.